I'll talk a little bit more about hand rankings and how that really applies with the actual board. Because although this is your, let's move this down, these are your ranking of hands. These are true for really any game of poker, or most games of poker, I'll say. Full house, four of a kind, two pair. All of these are really generally the same. But what's important in Hold'em is that, and what that kind of makes it a little bit unique, is you get your two cards again. So these cards come face down. Okay. And when gets dealt a hand. And then these are the community cards that get dealt face up. Again, these first three cards are called the flop. This fourth card is called the turn. And this card is the river. So let's just pretend that we'll just make this a three-handed game just so we can kind of, sort of compare. In this case, you can see that they're all fairly even. Ace Queen has a little bit of an advantage just against three hands. But in this case, this player, they might raise or just limp in three-handed. This is a pretty strong hand. Although, again, on our chart, just to kind of show you how things are fairly situational, this is Ace Queen offsuit. So it is in the third tier. But again, we got to remember is we're not talking about a full ring game anymore. We're only against three players. So the value of hands like this go way up. It's still a pretty good hand even at a full ring game. But against even fewer players, it's a very, very good hand. So the pre-flop action could look like probably raise. This would probably be a re-raise. And this player, depending on the bet sizes, depending if it's a cash game or a tournament, which we'll talk about a little bit how that gets in, how that affects our decision making, along with stack sizes and some other things. This player would raise and they might fold, but for the sake of argument and just to be able to look at some flops and see how textures change, we're just going to assume that all the players went and they saw the flop. We'll say it's a much more passive game than we're playing. Again, in general, an aggressive strategy in the right spots is a winning strategy more so than a passive strategy. We probably won't talk too much about why that is on this recording, but certainly in future open webinars, we're going to get a little bit more into then taking what we learned here and otherwise and applying that to building a solid winning poker strategy. In this case, let's put down a couple flop cards. Oops. It's the four of spades, queen of spades, nine of clubs. So, what you really need to, this is one of the things I think most new players struggle with as they start to learn. One of the things that became very apparent as I started coaching people, they kind of knew the ranking of hands. They wasn't really sure what beats what exactly, but once you really know the ranking of hands, being able to look at your two starting cards and then look at the community cards and figure out what your hand strength is, what strengths and weaknesses of your hand are there, what else is possible, what the nuts is. The nuts is the best possible hand. So I think we'll spend a little bit of time going over a couple of examples of this just to sort of show you how you start taking a look at the board and really dissecting and figuring out your hand strength. And this is what we call board reading and board textures. So in this particular case, this is a pair of queens with a top kicker. So basically, if someone else had king queen, you would have the winning hand, or at least be ahead of them at this point. Again, remember, we still two more cards to come, but you would be in the lead because your ace plays. Again, we're playing queen, queen, nine, ace, four. Remember, your best 5-card poker hand. Okay, so in this case, this person here, so 5, 6, they have a flush draw. See that? So 2 spades, they got 2 spades in their hand. So there's 9 spades left in the deck. Okay, what I mean by that is, again, there's 13 total spades in the deck, and there's 9 spades that are left because 4 here are on board. No spades in players' hands. Not that they would necessarily know that, but we do. So these 9 spades, we call those outs. Okay. And the way it's getting to this 40%, okay, you take those outs, and outs are cards to come that give you the winning hand. And in this case, any spade would make a flush, and that would give this 5-6 the winning hand. So the way you kind of calculate, you see the computer's doing it for us and giving our percent chance of winning. You take the 9 outs, and each card to come, you multiply by 2.2%, or roughly 2%. So that's how you're getting to 40. So it's essentially 9 times 2.2, and then times 2, because you have 2 chances. So basically 20% chance twice. That's how you're getting to 40. Okay. Here is your Jack 10. So in this particular hand, they have 20% chance of winning. They have a open-ended straight draw. Okay. Queen, Jack, 10, 9, but a king or an 8 would give this hand the winner. However, the reason that they don't have as much equity in the hand is because it can't be a king of spades, or it can't be the 8 of spades, because that would give this player the flush. So those aren't their clean outs. So if a 8 of hearts came, that would be great. But if an 8 of spades came, that would be pretty much a disaster. And it might be tough for this player to get away from it, unless they know that this player with the action definitely only has a flush. So in this, you need to tread lightly when you are drawing to straights. Draws are great hands. Again, you can see like this player has top pair with an ace kicker, and they're up against a flush draw, and it's almost even equity. Okay, so but when you have a straight draw against a possible flush on board, you have to recognize that a lot of your outs aren't clean, and may put you in a bad situation. Again, the key, we want to stay away from bad situations. So in this particular hand, this player might bet out. If they call, or call, probably won't raise in this spot, probably just call long. And depending on the bet sizes and how much is in the pot, you really have to decide whether or not it's worth it. Essentially, are you getting pot odds to call even though you only have a 21% chance of winning? So basically, the pot needs to be giving you at least 4-1 odds to make this a break-even play. And again, I don't think we'll talk too much about pot odds and going all to the math today, but what we're learning now about equity and odds, we're sort of setting the table and setting the foundation for how you'll go about making those decisions later. So let's put up another card. Throw up the Queen of Diamonds. So in this particular case, you can see that the Ace Queen became a lot stronger at this point. Now they're 70% favorite to win. 5-6 of spades, they still have some outs. You see it went down a little bit. It's not exactly 9 outs anymore. And actually that's because that took away the 9 of spades. Because if the 9 of spades came, that would give this player a full house. You see queen, queen, 9, 9. So that would be 3 queens, 2 nines, which would be queens full. So even though if the 9 of spades came, I would give this player a flush. Full house always beats a flush. So, and then this person still has just 14% equity. So, again, if there's a lot of betting here, and I imagine this player is definitely betting out, and a lot of players still will be calling in the spot trying to hit their flush. And again, depending on the size of the bet, it may be right or wrong. But against a paired board and a flush draw, this Jack 10 really shrinks, even though the equity is sort of similar-ish. Still not a very good situation. So on the end, again, just to kind of demonstrate the point. So Ace Queen makes queens full, and even though they made their flush, it is not at all good. Not at all good. So again, this is one of the things that I kind of recommend to get beginning players and even experienced players misread boards a lot. They just don't see all the possibilities, and I think that's a huge mistake. Because this is the easy stuff. I say quote unquote easy stuff. This is the information that is um, readily available to you if you're looking for the right thing. So really practice this. Take a deck of cards, deal random hands, deal random flops. Pay attention. Try to figure out what the nuts, what the nuts is on a particular board texture. See how the board can change given a different card coming out and how that changes the situation. And this is something that you can practice, and that way your all your thought process and mental energy isn't going into just figuring out what you have and what's possible. They'll just become a little bit more second nature.